fortunate to be part of it. I feel
Where'd he go?
I don't know. We got a couple of messages about being recorded and Todd disappeared.
Yeah, he probably responded to one and signed off, so by mistake. So I think he will probably be joining us again very soon.
Yeah, he'll come back on.
Was it something I said?
Oh, now there he comes. It says he's a co-host now. Someone has to accept him, maybe.
Yeah,
Jill, can you do that?
I'm trying to do that right now.
Should be able to, yeah, you should be able to unmute now, Todd. Yeah.
okay. You got me?
Yep.
Yeah, you're back.
All right. We're going to try this again. So I don't know how much you heard before I got kicked off, but I want to thank Jill and Samantha and Josh from the Legacy Project for allowing this. Also, our fabulous music, performing arts and music technologies department, incredibly talented department. I feel very fortunate to be part of it. And keep an eye out for other talks and events that we are having throughout the semester. And I want to give a little bit of background on Alex. So here to give you a little bit of a background. Alex Torrez retired from the road in 1995 as a touring drummer to Tracy Lawrence, Leon Russell, Edgar Winter, and many others to take a position as director of A&R for Sony Records, working in artist development with capacity with the careers of Dixie Chicks, Patty Loveless, Joe Diffie, and many others. In '97, he was promoted to senior director of A&R position for DKC Records in the Sony ATV tree building. During his run with Sony, Alex has secured over 40 major record chart topping singles recorded by artists like Martina McBride, Dixie Chicks, Tim McGraw, Keith Urban. In 2004, Alex was contacted by Gibson Guitars to oversee the entertainment relations division headquartered in Nashville, and as a marketing executive, develop a variety of co-branding opportunities worldwide. Now fully concentrating on his own record label and management company, Torrez Music Group, it's distributed by The Orchard. Alex heads up his label, management, publishing companies, overseeing the careers of Tristan Marez, Gabe Lee, and developing newcomers like Lone Hollow, Zoe Cummings, and King Margot. This year, he will also launch a sister label in Texas called TMG Tejas. The label was created to sign and develop guide careers of great Latino country singers. Texas fan favorite Mario Flores will be the debut artist of the new label. And you can follow Alex on Torrez Music Group on Instagram. And Alex, I want to ask you, you have such a well-rounded musical career. So with all this experience, do you feel more like a mentor to your artists, or as opposed to just another music executive, music business guy?
Well, I mean, gosh, that's a great way to put it. I absolutely feel like a mentor to my artists, and any of the folks that I work with, whether they're artists or not, or my some of the outsourced folks that we bring on board, like our photographers or our publicists or our radio components that sometimes we bring on that I'm sure we'll talk about later. But yeah, absolutely. I've been doing this for a while, and there is a blurred line of being a mentor, 1 minute, and then also, giving direction of our project or whatever that we're working on at the time, and making sure that everybody's on point with the launching of the music that we're trying to create.
So what's your definition of artist development?
Artist development to me is, in the case of Gabe Lee, who's joined us today, is as ground floor as it can be for my company. A lot of companies don't work from the ground floor up. They usually like an artist to be developed along the way and do it their own way. And then, they'll climb on board at some point when they start to see some business. But I really love the getting down into the roots of a new artist and really getting to know them and experiencing who they are and experiencing their music, listening to their vision of where they want to take their music, and literally creating it from the ground floor. When we launched Gabe Lee a couple of years ago, he wasn't on Spotify. He hadn't released any music. He had 0 followers on most socials, if any. And so artists
Didn't even have a car.
yeah. So artist development started with us from the extreme ground floor. And so what was great about that was it allowed me as a label, and it allowed Gabe as an artist to grow together and to be able to experiment with his music and figure out exactly how we wanted to present it, where we, kept his vision intact to the music that he wanted to create and that he wanted to release. A lot of times with the majors, they'll reach out to artists after they've gone 7 or 8 years and have developed some kind of following and fan base, and maybe have been on American Idol or The Voice or something, and they'll latch on. Then they don't do a lot of work from the very, very ground floor of things, and I think that's I love doing it that way, and I think we do it very well, and it takes a lot of understanding, a lot of communication with the artist, and really getting it right on all levels of the project before you release it out the door.
Well, I was going to ask this later, but I'm going to ask it now. Alex, how did you find Gabe? How did this meeting occur? And then tell us about what happened.
Well, I went to a brewery, a place called Tennessee Brew Works here in Nashville, and they were having an open mic night. I was with my kids. We went upstairs to have beers and burgers, and Gabe, that had signed up like everyone else for the open mic night, and it just happened that he was the first artist up that night, and he started singing, and we couldn't see him from the upstairs section, but we could hear him. And my kids and I both looked at each other like, hey, there's something happening here. It sounds really good. So I went and looked down over this half wall and saw Gabe, and started paying a little more attention to it. And it just blew me away. It was just one of those magical moments that still happens, I think, in Nashville. Rarely, does it happen, I think, as quickly as we were able to make it happen. But again, we're an independent label. We're able to maneuver however we want and as quickly as we want. But as soon as Gabe was finished with his 3 songs, I went downstairs and introduced myself and told him who I was, and told him I'd love to meet up with him, and thought he was really great. And we met a couple of weeks later for beers and conversation, and then we met up a couple of more times after that, and we decided to work together. But it was extremely organic in a way that it was old school organic, that's for sure.
And Gabe, from your perspective, you were playing your 3 tunes at this place, and all of a sudden this guy comes up to you and starts talking about maybe doing something together. How did you feel about it? And this, again, this was an open mic. Is that what this was?
Correct.
That's correct. An open mic where my buddies and I used to frequent pretty often, and you just show up like 30 minutes before, sign a sheet, and then go up and play your couple songs. Nashville's a huge networking town, right? Everywhere you go, especially in the songwriter scene, in the music scene, folks are constantly introducing themselves. You're meeting folks every night that could potentially help you, or are just looking to expand their network. So AT, or Alex Torrez, coming up and saying hi wasn't unusual. He gave me a business card and said, keep me posted. I'll be listening. He came to the next show and the one after that, and I had some opportunities to I had some hour-long slots at a different bar nearby that he was able to attend. which featured myself and one of my best friends who's a dobro player. AT got a good idea for kind of what a record would sound like if we went down that path. And then a few months down the road, we decided to go ahead and cut songs because I had 10 or 12 songs that I wasn't ready to record them per se, but I had them written and I was willing to work with AT as a producer. And those things all falling into place, made the partnership viable, and it's obviously worked great because we're still cutting records today.
Yeah, what year was that?
Well, that was 2018 when we first met.
Right.
So I want to tell everyone that you've had over 6 million streams on all platforms. You've had over 300,000 streams on YouTube. In 2020, this is a Billboard review. Gabe Lee's Honky Tonk Hell is a heaven for fans of the stylistic diversity that can be found under the country music umbrella. Rolling Stone said it was in the top 30 best country album list of 2020. Pretty good. And Grady Smith said it was record of the year 2020. Not bad.
Yeah, we snuck in there somehow.
Yeah, so you are getting some attention. And Alex, do you generally look for songwriters, or are you looking for a performing act, or how do you approach it? With Gabe, you heard something in his voice and in his songwriting, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I thought both were extremely unique, and yeah, it didn't sound like anything that was going on in Nashville at the time. And Nashville at the time, and still to some degree, had become kind of the record industry or the music industry within Nashville, in the majors at least, had become really, to me, watered down, bro country music, which wasn't appealing to me. And I had an independent label, and I was looking for something that wasn't going to be that, because it didn't fit the style of music that I was enjoying. But Gabe came from an area musically that was intriguing to me, being I was born in the 60s and a kid in the 70s. And so I was, I learned listened to a lot of music by the Beatles and Bob Dylan and a lot of the singer-songwriters that were coming out of New York City in the East Village. And I was very drawn to that. And I just felt like Gabe would fit right into that sound, and kind of that there was an element of folk to it. There was definitely a country element. It was just very appealing to me all the way around, from his, the sound of it and his writing. And yeah, it was intriguing enough for me to go up to him and say, hey, I think we could do some business together. And yeah, that's how I went after it. But everybody's different. If you listen to some of the artists on my label, and I'll be happy to share a link to my Spotify playlist that has all of them on it. My label is very diverse in sound. So, Tristan, that you mentioned earlier, is a Texas country guy, and if you love George Strait, you'll love Tristan Merez. And Lone Hollow it comes from more of the Tedeschi Trucks area of music, where it's southern roots and blues music. And Luciana Costa, who Gabe just mentioned, King Margot is her band, her duo that she's in with her partner Rachel Coates, and it's we're gonna chase the sound where the Secret Sisters and where the Indigo Girls live. So it'll be very singer-songwriter Americana based. So going back to my roster and going back to Gabe, it just feels good that I can actually maneuver in a way that everyone can be unique in their own style and be comfortable with who they want to be as an artist. And I understand their vision, and I go with their vision, and I don't try to change anything about them.
Gabe, who are some of your songwriting influences?
Absolutely. Growing up in Nashville, I was raised in a church environment, so bluegrass and gospel are play heavily into, I think, melody and harmony for me. As far as lyricism and delivery, we get compared to John Prine a lot. I think because of the timbre of the voice, but also sort of the talky sing-song kind of delivery we have, and also some of the tone of the lyrics there.
Yeah, the storytelling. Yeah,
Yeah,
I absolutely hear that in you, that there's this connection with John Prine.
Yeah, and we're happy to be serious at times, but also not afraid to be comedic and use language, as not only as a way to communicate emotionally, but as a way to just kind of goof around, because music is fun, and folks sometimes, so I think songwriters take it extremely seriously at times, which is good, but we like to break it up sometimes. So we have that element too, which I think John Prine perfected in a lot of ways in his storytelling. He was masterful in his use of comedy in his songs. And then I grew up listening to a pretty diverse range of songwriters. I will say that I love Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. I think his delivery and his melodies are excellent. And notice I'm not really naming anyone who's known for being an incredible vocalist or anything. These guys are really, I think, poets in a lot of ways, and have unique voices. Hayes Carl right now is doing that extremely well. Chris Knight as well. But it's hard not to be inspired by giants like Chris Stapleton, who is probably the most well known of all the names that I've listed, today, and that brings soul into country music, which is something that I think top 40 country is lacking a little bit these days. So someone like Chris, who brings that soulful energy, and again, that harkens back to gospel music in a lot of ways. Doing that is extremely inspirational for singers like me, who kind of have a grittier voice.
You also have some training on classical piano. Your mother was a pianist, and did she give you lessons growing up?
Yeah, whether I wanted it or not, she was definitely there to coach me. It was a huge part of my childhood. I grew up playing classical piano. I originally went to Belmont University for piano performance, and I kind of left that behind in a way. I felt like, and I know I'm speaking to academia, but I felt like my music education, I wanted to take it in my own hands, for lack of better words, and while I had a great foundation from years of private lessons and being at Blair School of Music's pre-college program, piano competitions and all those things, playing in the church as well, provided an enormous foundation of music and theory. But I think eventually I was more interested in creating songs and writing songs and composing on my own terms, and I felt like I needed to explore outside of the classroom, if you will. So all that to say, I'm a huge proponent of music education, and I think we're all students of music. And I think even the best musicians try to remember that there's always more to learn with music, and the education doesn't just start in the classroom or stop in the classroom, right?
But your piano chops, your training, you're using in your performances.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, people enjoy that. I think right now we are doing a lot of support slots. So we're opening for a lot of bigger acts, and we'll go out, have like a 45-minute set. We'll do a couple songs on the guitar, switch over to the piano, and then back again. And people seem to enjoy that a lot. I don't really have the I guess the funding to bring a full band out as much as we would like these days. So having that element absolutely, I think, breaks up the 45-minute set and provides a little bit of depth.
Gabe, let's get you to play a tune for us. And while you're getting your guitar, Alex, I want to know that you can get ready, and Alex, you must get like hundreds of demos from people. Do you sort through everything that you get, or do you have somebody who does that for you and say, hey, check this person out, check this artist out?
It's a little of all of that, and yeah, I do get emails. I get a lot of direct messages on Instagram for people to that reach out to me that want me to listen to their stuff, and for the most part, I do listen to a lot of it. I still love the idea of having an open door environment to my business, which is at the end of the day is going to be my ears, and I will respond a lot of times and just let them know how I feel, or what I think, or or at least try to show some encouragement as well. A lot of times now the fact that I have a record label and a management, they just want to be signed immediately, and fortunately for us, and where we've ended up in business, we're kind of at capacity with artists as far as what I can handle. I'm going to have to hire some more folks if I keep signing artists, but yeah, and so I'm very polite, and I say, hey, look, I think you sound great. Unfortunately, we're just not looking for a new artist right now. But yeah, it comes from all angles, and I do try to be open. I think what's made us successful up to now is the fact that I've always been open to listening, to listening to anybody at whatever level that they're coming at me from, and it's proven to work with artists like Gabe and Tristan, and yeah, it's been really special to see that happen.
Gabe, you want to play us a tune?
Sure. This first one is called Evelyn. We have 2 records out, and the debut record I released with Alex was in 2019, and the record is called Farmland. The song is called Evelyn, and it is a regretful song. Wheels of fortune, the way we ride, Arizona, in better times, gambler skinny, suit and tie, going under, stay alive. If I'd have known by now what it cost to give everything away and take a loss, well, I'd have wished and I'd have prayed and rolled the dice. Evelyn, all the way down Santa Fe, ain't quit raining since you came and pulled me over, stole the keys, you killed the engine, you kissed my cheek. If I'd have known by now how to be, that life is more than rust and gasoline. Hand me the keys, honey, hand me the keys, I'll give you a ride. Evelyn, Evelyn. Richland Walmart to Frankie's Palm. Well, it ain't stopped snowing since you're gone. Store-bought envy, it gets you high and keeps you sober. The homemade wine, if I'd have known by now I was wrong, that you were on my mind all along. I would have never run, ever tried to leave, or made you wanna cry. Evelyn, Evelyn, Evelyn. That's Evelyn, y'all. Thank you.
Beautiful. Alex, I want to ask you all the help that you need to get an artist like Gabe out there. You need a publicist, you need a photographer. Talk about some of the people that you need to bring on board to get Gabe known.
Sure. So, obviously you go through the recording process, which could take, 4 to 6 months of just making sure you feel like you have the right songs for the project and the right team, whether it's the engineer or the co-producer. We use my buddy David Dorn has co-produced all the records that we've done with Gabe, and the studio that we're going into, and everybody agrees that the environment, it feels great. And then from there, you go through the recording process, and then you start your edits and your background vocals, and then you go to mixing and mastering, and then you're ready for, the music to be launched. But you still have artwork to be done. There's photography to be done. There's album covers or covers for digital releases that need to be done. So we outsource a photographer, but for us, like we love this young lady named Brooke Stevens, who's fantastic, who has shot all of our artists, including all the Gabe Lee, both of the Gabe Lee covers, the 2 albums that we've done, and so we get the photography right, and we get the presentation where it's intriguing, we feel, and it's going to gain as much attention as it can just on its own. And then we bring on a publicist, and we introduce the music to a publicist, and let them live with it for a little while, and let them gather up their ideas of which direction they want to send it to and what publications that they want to run with. And that's a 3 to 4 month process that happens from the time we deliver the music until, in the middle of this, we have our release dates already set, and everybody knows exactly when the music's going to drop. And so we create some content with some of the photographs that Brooke, has taken, and we use that content to start, in our own way, chirping about it on our socials, and talking about the releases coming. And at the same time, Rob Krauser, our publicist, is hitting up all the publications, which, as you mentioned earlier, could be Saving Country Music, Rolling Stone, Grady Smith. We send the music out to those guys, and we hope that they listen to it. It's never guaranteed, but we hope that with the team that we bring on and the music, that we send out, that they're intrigued enough to at least give us 2 or 3 minutes, and to try to, get them involved into helping us create a story. And that's how you create the story. And then on the other side of it, with the distribution and the release of the record, is, we work with our distributor, who is The Orchard, based in New York City. And we work with their team on the DSPs, the digital service providers, and making sure that they've received the music correctly, and making sure that they're aware that it's coming, and give them as much information as we can, with marketing drivers that we send over to them to let them know about the artist and the music. And at that point, if we have some quotes or some great bullet points that we can send along with it, then we send that and hope to get their attention, and then they decide whether they want to put us on playlists, which have become very important in the release of records and the release of singles and music anymore. Is you want to end up on some of the better playlists that Spotify, the editors of Spotify create, and the editors of Amazon Music and Apple Music, and we have conversations with all of those folks, and so yeah, at the end of the day, we just make sure that we start with the foundation of the music and the artist being absolutely ready and exactly how we want to present it, and then we involve the entire team, and we come up with a strategy of when we're all going to hit certain resources that we can, that are going to help us create this story. And we, I was going to say we sit back and hope for the best, but we never sit back. We're constantly pushing buttons and sending emails and making phone calls and coming up with more ideas and more content and new videos and just anything that we can to just continue to get the attention of the current project that we're working.
And where do you decide that an artist goes? What area of the country? You work with booking agents. Do you say, I think Gabe would really go over in Floydada, Texas. How do you come up with that?
Well, a lot of it is dictated by the music, so in Gabe's case, it's, again, like as you just experienced, it's singer-songwriter, it's folk, it's Americana, there's country involved. And so we look at other artists that are doing really well, that are already out and established to a degree where they're headlining some of these venues that we also are interested in hitting. And we make phone calls to their agents and their management to see if they might be interested in allowing Gabe to support some of those dates. And so a lot of it is honestly is us just looking at other artists like Gabe or like his music, or an audience that we know that they are drawing, that we feel like could become Gabe Lee fans if we just put them in front of them. So a lot of it has to do with who you fit in with.
AT, please don't send me to Floydada, Texas.
For all who don't know, that's my hometown. Population 2,000 people.
I love Texas though. Texas is a great place for songwriters in general, because they have a huge respect for the craft of it. But it's so enormous. You could play in Texas on ranch parties for your entire life and make a really good living, but you have to diversify as well. So we have fun in Texas, but we have hubs in the Carolinas, and we sneak up to the East Coast once in a while. The Midwest has taken to our music, and I'm from the South. So, and then we get emails about private parties all over the place, and folks on the West Coast are waiting for us to get out there as well. So we're hoping to cast a wide net,
Well, let me ask you about the Nashville scene. The Nashville scene really seems to have bounced back. It was dipping down there for a while in the late 90s. Studios were being sold, but now really has bounced back. There's the whole indie rock scene going on. Jack White has moved there. How do you feel about the Nashville scene? Both of you. I'll start with Gabe, and then how do you feel about it compared to New York and the LA scene?
The Nashville music scene is more diverse than the broader perspective would probably give it credit for, because the loudest voices in the scene and the most well-off and affluent voices in the scene are your big country music publishing labels. But you're absolutely right. There's a phenomenal underlying indie rock scene that is very present to me. I mean, growing up here, I have always frequented some of the rock clubs like Exit In or The End, and these are storied places in their own right. They don't always host country music acts. In fact, they're a great spot for touring rock bands or hip hop groups to stop in if they're coming through Nashville. because they're definitely not going to play at the honky tonks on Broadway, you know. So I would say that Nashville is definitely getting a little. There's definitely subdivisions of the town and the music scene that are yeah, I guess vary by region. I mean, East Nashville, so east of the river, is a very vibrant and creative art scene, and you will find on that side of the river more of the Jack White types, right? And South Nashville as well, more of the grungy, like industrial kind of alternative rock, and then west of Nashville and in towards Franklin, Williamson County, which is a more of like a commerce, like corporate part of the state. There's tons of amazing home studios where folks from all different genres go and record. And then of course you do have Central Midtown and Music Row, which is dedicated towards mostly country and publishing and A&R as we know it. But I would say that if you're visiting Nashville and when we're involved in discussions about the community of Nashville and the diversity and representation, I always try to let folks understand that Nashville as a culture is definitely geared towards country music because that is our history and that is part of the lifeblood of what has made Nashville what it is today. But I wouldn't go as far to say that it is completely whitewashed in the pop country culture that has definitely taken the nation by storm, taken the world by storm in a lot of ways. There are very important things happening when it comes to folks like Alex who are investing in music that they believe is great, that is outside of what would be considered just pop or commercial, and are using all the resources at their disposal to get that music heard. So it's important to remember that when you visit, I mean, anywhere, but especially Nashville, because people think bachelorette parties, honky tonks, hot chicken and barbecue, and we're trying to remind folks that there's much more to it than that.
So Alex, you've toured all over the country. So how about the comparison between either coast, LA and the New York scene with Nashville? Do you approach it? I have to think you do. You approach it if you're working in New York or if you're working in LA than you would in Nashville. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in on the West Coast as much as I have in on the East Coast or New York in particular. But I think the difference between us and both of those music markets is that everyone seems to be a little more friendly to each other here. We all are actual friends and we do work together. We are still very competitive about what we do, but we also celebrate each other's successes. So there is kind of a buddy system here to some degree. Not so much of a clique system. I mean, I'm sure there are in some circles, but there is a buddy system here that I don't think is happening in those other music markets. I think, I mean, I was meeting with an A&R person from Warner Brothers last night, and he was saying how LA is just, they're just everyone's out for himself, and they're not really that interested in helping that many people. So I think that's the difference in Nashville. Everybody's really kind here, and really do want to see each other succeed, because I think we all feel if we all succeed, the city succeeds and the format succeeds.
Right. Right. So I want to ask you about product. So since the profit potential is exponentially higher for physical product as opposed to streaming, what is your strategy for moving more physicals?
Well, that's not necessarily true all the time. Right now, because of streaming and how big it's become, and the fact that we do get some great attention from the digital service providers, for the Spotify's, the Apple Musics, and those guys, like they do pay attention to our artists. We end up on some pretty big playlists that allow us to get into the millions of streams. And while we do, especially in Gabe's case, well, we do ship out vinyl every week. You know, he might ship out in a good week, he might ship out 5 or 7 pieces of vinyl, but he may be streamed 1,000 times that week. Now, obviously, the money is a lot different. The royalty payment is a lot different. But at the end of the month and at the end of the year, the streams do pay a lot more than the vinyl pays, for sure. But what the vinyl or the, you know, any piece of music that we have manufactured that Gabe takes on the road with him, you know, it also allows him to get down the road with the additional income that that brings. So it's certainly, you know, it's not chump change by any means, but it certainly helps. You know, it helps us move along in the process of development and getting, you know, further down the road and gaining that fan base that we want, building it.
So we have 15 minutes here. Gabe, let's get you to do another tune. I'm going to open it up for a little Q&A afterwards, and I might have some more questions for you too.
You got it. Let me tune the sucker up one sec.
Alex, do you ever miss drumming?
Yes, I do actually. But gosh, we're just so busy. I don't even think about it anymore. It's almost like this chapter. I literally closed the book and went to another section of my life. I love what I do. You know, I think if I didn't love what I did on the executive side of it, or developing artists, or A&R, or producing, or whatever it is that I'm allowed to do with my guys, I probably would go back to drumming at some point. But we stay very busy doing what we do, and yeah, I just love it. I love what we do.
Well, you've drummed with Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. You've done so much and a variety of things, and you bring that to the table with the Torrez Music Group.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the music side of me definitely plays a role every day in the work that I do for, you know, the executive side of things, the administration side of things.
All right, Gabe, you tuned up?
Sir. So we put out Farmland in 2019, and we put out our second record titled Honky Tonk Hell in 2020, which is kind of like in comparison or in contrast to Farmland, which was mostly a singer-songwriter acoustic record. Honky Tonk Hell was kind of a raucous, like Southern rock record. And then we're working on a third one right now, meticulously, and trying to dial everything right and be spot on with our tone and our voice and singing and playing and all that, and arrangement especially. And here's one of my favorites from the new record. It's called Over You. Gone and done it again. Run my motion razor thin. Torn asunder. Some poor wonder found this side of the fence. And in my childish defense, we were binded more to break and less to mend. So down the long abandoned road she winds, kicking dust in my eye. And the rain has already Still my faith ain't come around. There's only fire and thunder burning out, and I had a hell of a time getting over you. Day by day, by and by, we may wither, you and I. Love ain't no lawyer, she don't fix no crime. Look how dirty she finds. Take me now, this I pray. Grant me stealth flight, angel wings. Fly me through the valley to Williamson County, where even the garbage is clean. And the rain has all run out. Still my faith ain't come around. There's only fire and thunder burning out, and I had a hell of a time. Whoa, and I had a hell of a time getting over you. Getting over you. Getting over you. Getting over you.
I'd like to open it up for some questions. And Jill, if you're looking at any questions there, let's get some from the audience.
So Todd, we have a question in the chat room about Spotify and other streaming platforms that allow you to get original music out there to the fans. I'm curious though, if this is from John Soltis, if the Spotify formula is ultimately sustainable.
I'll answer that. Yeah, absolutely, it's sustainable. I think right now it's the greatest way for an artist to get his music out, and in a extremely broad way, in a global way, and target, hopefully target enough of that net to allow him to build an audience from it. So yeah, I mean, at this point, as difficult as it is to get on radio, and radio is a completely different game. I mean, you want your music to be heard by everyone immediately across the world. Streaming is the way to go, and I don't think streaming is going anywhere anytime soon.
The one problem is the royalty rate for streaming services, what they're paying, which is just a fraction.
Right. That there is a definitely, if you're a master rights owner, meaning a record label, and you own the rights to the masters that you release, the payout is definitely better than it is for the songwriters. And then the labels work out their own deals between themselves and the artist as to how much the artist is going to get. So it's all negotiable between the label and the artist. Unfortunately, for the songwriters and the publishers, it's not that way. And they basically have gotten caught in the old laws and the rates that they developed years ago that were that were relevant to them when we were selling physical product and we were selling or they were getting performance airplay on radio. And those rates are continued daily, monthly, weekly to be renegotiated within the organizations like the NSAI or the PROs like BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC, and Congress, and the congressmen that are trying to help. And it's a slow process, but it's definitely going to get to a place where everybody's going to be happy. But it certainly is lacking in that department for sure. The songwriters and publishers are paying the biggest cost of anybody here.
So we have another question in the chat. Someone is asking, can you please explain a 360 record deal?
Well, the 360 deal was basically developed a couple of years ago, maybe a decade ago, when we didn't have streaming and the physical sales were going down, and digital was coming into itself as a viable monetary base for people to make a living. And so the labels decided that it was in their best interest to create these, what they call these 360 deals, where they also participated in management. They also participated in their publishing and their songwriter rights. They participated in any kind of placement that the artist were to receive if he were able to get one of his songs in a TV commercial or something. So basically the labels felt like in order for them to keep investing the amounts of money that they were doing, which could be up to $1 million or $2 million per project, that they were going to have to take pieces from places that they had never done before, meaning management, touring, merchandise, performing rights. And so that's where the 360 deal came from. Now with streaming coming into play and being a major part of rebuilding the industry, the 360 deal has basically faded away. No one's doing those anymore.
I had a question for Gabe. First I wanted to say that I just think your music is incredibly moving and beautiful, Gabe, but I think it's so interesting that, you're an Asian American artist in sort of this folk country genre and growing up in Nashville. And I just wondered if that has had an impact on either your entry into the business, but also the songs you write and how you reflect on your experience.
I think addressing the first part of the question, I think when we play on the road and even at home here in Nashville, where we have more of a community that we're familiar with, we're always met with a very positive amount of surprise for the audio visual disconnect that a lot of folks have when they see me get on stage for the first time and sing. So or hear me talk. And that's something that I think honestly has played to our advantage for the most part. We love that reaction. It's normally I mean 99.9% I think of the time it's been an extremely eye-opening reaction for our listeners. Which is exactly what we're going for, and not even really intentionally. There's definitely something. There's definitely some hills we're going to have to climb as far as our image and getting folks to hop on board. For a lot of people probably do judge a book by its cover, and we will have to surmount that at some point. And I think AT and I have just agreed that when it comes to those issues of, again, diversity and representation, we're just too busy cutting songs and being on the road and doing the thing to really worry about the politics of it. But of course, yeah, I mean, down the road, we only expect to meet those, I guess, to meet that hesitation and to meet some of those closed doors and be okay with it and be confident in what we're doing in our work, in the songwriting and in the language of the music that we're creating. So growing up here in Nashville, again, I've got a phenomenal community of family and folks that are a part of my background, regardless of the music. And that's that's something that a lot of folks who move to Nashville these days don't have. It's it's just a support, just that foundation of your hometown, and that makes it all the more easy, I guess. You know, when I'm playing out and about downtown, I went to high school, like, you know, just a few blocks down the street. So that kind of familiarity definitely helps. Your second part of that question was, could you repeat that?
I guess just the influence of, I mean, obviously it must influence having immigrant parents and growing up as an Asian American in Nashville on your songwriting.
Right. I'm definitely very interested in origin. And I'm a huge reader, and I think, and I have a literature degree. So I think all of that coming into play is just really healthy for my songwriter's mind. I think a lot of times when I'm writing, I build characters that build characters that essentially are mediums for real emotions that I've experienced. I'm not necessarily going to stand up there and sing about my personal life all the time. I think some people are really good at doing that, and some people have more interesting stories to share. But for myself, I enjoy the fictional narrative. So I'm absolutely using the emotions and the background of all those things and experiences I have growing up here in Nashville with the background that we have. But again, I will say that that our songwriting community has been extremely open, accepting, and in any community where you're you know trying to make a name for yourself, you have to prove yourself. You have to show your worth and gain respect. You can't expect it to be handed to you at any point. I don't really understand some folks who come to Nashville. They may be very skilled and very talented, but they seem to expect a level of respect that maybe they haven't earned yet, or maybe they haven't reciprocated. And that takes up a huge amount of someone's. I think that's a huge part of someone's personality, and if you don't have that in this town, then you're gonna be introduced to a pretty rude awakening. So yeah, just to sum it all up, you kind of have to earn it one way or another, and we think our storytelling does that.
Jill, we have some other questions.
We have a question that is for Alex. Before you became a professional, what was some of your favorite music that you jammed with your friends in high school?
Well, yeah, being from Texas, we played a lot of country music. I was born in the Panhandle near Lubbock, and the Lubbock music scene at the time was very vibrant with the songwriters that were there. There were some great songwriters like Jimmy Dale Gilmore and Butch Hancock, Joe Ely, that were introducing us to songwriters like Lyle Lovett, Rodney Crowell, Townes Van Zandt, Steve Earle were all kind of hanging out down in Austin and south of Austin. And so there was a lot of singer-songwriters that were very influential to me growing up. But at the same time, being just a normal kid in high school, I also loved the music of the day, which included, you know, Boston, Foghat, Aerosmith, you know, and all those great rock bands that were just so much fun to see. Bad Company was a great rock band from Britain that was my favorite rock band, I think. And I've always been a big fan of Bruce Springsteen, and so I always listened to him. And so yeah, just all over the place. But also, you know, again, being from Texas, Willie Nelson was a giant influence on me from just a musical standpoint, a lyrical standpoint, and just being himself as an artist, which I think still plays a role for me when I work with guys like Gabe and allow them to be themselves as an artist. You know, there's evidence that works, and you don't have to be manufactured and be someone that you don't want to be a great musician and a great artist. So yeah, it was just, you know, as interesting as, I know kids today have Spotify and streaming at their fingertips, and their playlists are just all over the place. Even when I was younger, my playlist, if we didn't call it that then, we dialed into the radio, or we had our cassettes or our 8 tracks or some vinyls, and we just tried to, grab as much music as we could wherever we could get it.
Any other questions, Jill? We should be wrapping this up.
Yeah, I have one more question if you have time. So we have a question about the music business. For aspiring musicians, should they get a steady gig and pursue their music on the side, or should they devote themselves 100% to the art form if financially possible?
I'm going to let Gabe answer this because he has a great story about financing his own self personally and trying to get in the music industry.
I've always been a worker, and I have since high school. I've been in food industry for the majority of my life, it feels like, and it's definitely made me top to bottom just a better, I think, human being. There's definitely, if some folks have the option to embark on their artistic journey with money or funding and financial freedom from whatever source that is, which is, I mean, more power to you, I think. I don't know. I can't say that there's like one is better than the other. I don't think that's fair to say, but I will say that if you're going to be a songwriter and be an artist of any craft, that as long as you're pursuing it in a genuine, authentic way to yourself, then you will have a creative license on your music that money really can't buy. You have to find your voice, and you have to find a message that you want to impart with your music. Money won't buy that. So if you're struggling, and I actually answered a similar question the other day on a podcast, but the whole like the struggle is real kind of saying these days, I think folks use it frivolously, and folks will, I don't know, they'll be late for work and stuck at the end of a Starbucks line and say the struggle is real, right? And that, I think, kind of undermines the real struggle, which is definitely the grind, as we call it. And half of my bartender buddies are all musicians or photographers or videographers or doing their own side projects. And you have to be willing, absolutely, to sacrifice for your art. But if you have to be smart about it. I'm a very balanced individual, so I was working constantly while pursuing music, and I was able to get a lot of inspiration for my music from my work, like my day job. So that is pretty much what I would impart is first of all, you gotta stay honest to yourself. Whatever you're doing, whether you have money or not, you gotta stay honest, because then the product isn't honest if you're not, right. And then yeah, work within your means. There's a few artists out there that dive head first into the deep end with their art and are able to swim and stay afloat. That's a rare thing. I think most people these days have to scrounge together some sort of funding and some sort of currency to continue. And I think the most important part about it is being in a community that's willing to help, being surrounded by talented people who believe in what you do, or at least have skills of their own. They're willing to donate their time and their energy and their resources to help you. I found the jackpot of that in Alex Torrez, who is investing his love for music in the music that I create and the music that my label mates create. That's a very rare thing, and I'm lucky for it. If you don't have that, yeah, you're probably going to be eating a lot of Easy Mac and ramen on the way up. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on board today to talk to our students and our community about your experience. And I just really appreciate it, and I think it was really valuable for everybody to hear where you're coming from. And Alex, people should follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, Torrez Music Group. That's what it is, and that's where you're going to get most of the information about what we do and keep up with everything that we do. And yeah, just follow us there.
Again, I want to thank you all for showing up, and I want to thank our audience for logging on. I don't know how many people we have there, but I certainly appreciate it. And thank you, Jill, for hosting and doing all that you do for us here.
And don't forget to follow Gabe Lee as well on his socials, and make sure you listen and stream his music. It does play a big role in us getting down the road a little further, and we're able to create more music and fund a couple of more things and some videos and some photo shoots. And so it all definitely pays off. Don't always believe that streaming is taking from the little guy. The little guy is actually surviving because of streaming.
All right. Happy trails.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Bye.